This is Changing Channels with Larry Walsh, the Channelnomics podcast that connects you with channel chiefs, thought leaders, and executives about what it takes to get the next generation of tech to market. Here's your host, Larry Walsh, the CEO and Chief Analyst of Channelnomics.
Hey everyone, thanks for joining us again. I'm Larry Walsh, Channelnomics. Here's a surprising fact, is the average channel chief changes jobs somewhere between every 18 to 36 months. It's an amazing phenomenon within our particular industry because it seems like channel chiefs are constantly starting over. Maybe their favorite song is by John Lennon, who knows? But starting over is more than just what most people perceive as being, just showing up for the new job. It's not just showing up and finding out where your desk is and knowing where to get your coffee and making sure you know how to get to the bathroom. There's a whole different set of protocols for channel chiefs. And starting over means something for different jobs and different roles. And somebody who has done this several times is our old friend, Lori Cornmesser. So she's joining us now, the new worldwide vice president of channel sales at CyCognito, in a really interesting company. So Lori, thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Larry. I'm just delighted to be here.
Well, we're great. It's always good to have you. So CyCognito, before we get into this, let's just ask, this is a different kind of security company. So why don't we just start by tell us a little bit about it?
Yeah, cybersecurity, actually, and just doing some really interesting things in this space. Our CEO was former Israeli intelligence, so they know this stuff really, really well. And I tell you, they are doing a lot in solving real customer problems. And every time they do a pitch to a CIO, every time we do a partner pitch, they just want to know more about those vulnerabilities and attack surfaces. So it's just very innovative company, very, very disruptive technology, and just very, very good humans. So I'm just delighted to be part of that team.
There's something about the Israeli military and Israeli intelligence that just produces like cybersecurity super people.
Yes,
I mean,
absolutely.
Truly extraordinary. So this is your career, though, and you are emblematic of this phenomenon. It's something that happens all the time. People change jobs. But what is it like for you? I mean, you've been a channel chief several times over. What's it like for you to step in to take over the role of a channel chief in a new company?
I was having a conversation with a friend of mine recently, and I said, it's like moving. We don't like to move, right? Moving houses, you've got to pack up boxes, you've got to label them, you've got to arrange the moving truck, you've got to make sure that the boxes actually arrive. Which ones do you want to take? Which ones don't you want to take? Which now go in the throw out bin, right? That you're not going to take to the new company. So it really is a lot of just, I always look for companies that are innovative in their space, that are doing something, that have a deliberate dependence on channel. And so it's but it is a lot like moving, right? We don't necessarily like to do it, but when we get there, man, we're good. We're unpacking the boxes. We feel good. We know where, we put the dishes in the right place now and all those kinds of things. So it is, but it is, once you kind of get there and kind of get settled, it feels better for sure.
I like the analogy. I mean, you're right, because it is. There's always that great movie scene, right? Of somebody, and not to say it like this, but somebody getting fired or somebody starting a new job. They come in with this single box, with their photos and their plant, yep. and it somehow it all fits into one box, right?
Right, exactly.
Right. As if that's ever real. But
that's right.
What's the starting point, though? I mean, you said it. You're unpacking the box.
Mm-hmm.
Well, what does unpacking the box mean on day one?
Yeah. So here's what I would say. Listen, I always respect the work that comes before me. That's first and foremost, because a lot of the people that are in the company made decisions that were good for at that moment. And you've got to continue to rely on these people and evolve. They've got to come along with you on this journey. So when I say respect the work that comes before you, it's not in a way that you're not willing to make a change or have a point of view, but be mindful of the fact that there was a lot of work and thought that kind of went into something. So things that seem sort of fundamental for me in terms of those things, I still have to respect the fact that they made the decisions that they made because it just seemed like the right thing at that time. Where I always start is kind of the blueprint. Again, kind of going back to this analogy of kind of the moving boxes. I have a blueprint that I have. There's certain things that I'm looking for by way of, culture of the company, by way of program, by way of enablement, by way of marketing, by way of all those tools and different pieces. And it's like a little bit of pieces of the puzzle. And now you're trying to say, what pieces do we have and where do they fit? Because now we're going to create a new picture. So it really is sort of just taking inventory, if you will, of kind of the current state of what you kind of begin with the end in mind. What picture do you want to create and what pieces do we have and which ones are missing?
Yeah. So, Lori, what was your first channel chief job?
My first channel chief job when I left Juniper Networks was with Ixia, a company called Ixia, Test and Measurement, which you know very well.
Yeah. So what's it like? How did that blueprint and that checklist change from the time you went from Juniper to Ixia to where you went from Infoblox to CyCognito?
Yeah. So, and here's the thing, Larry. Every company that I leave and sort of start, there are certain things that I learn. I feel like I get stronger and bolder in just who I am as a channel chief, my confidence in that, and a lot of those things. And so, my role at Ixia was coming in as their first channel anything. And so, I was the smartest person in the room for a couple of years. And I was able to kind of build from the ground up in terms of program, in terms of people, and really show them what that was all about. And there were a lot of good pieces that I took to Infoblox, who already had a channel and had a deliberate dependence on channel. But man, we just had phenomenal success at Infoblox. So the pieces that I leveraged into that, but each time I learned something different about the relationships that I need to have and at what levels in the company, related to that. And so every time I feel like I get stronger. There's some things that I don't want to take, and there's some things that I do want to take each time.
Yeah. One of the more unenvious parts of your job, and this is the job of you and all of your peers, is like being a student of military history. I always say, you're fighting a war in two fronts, and that you have to sell, or you have to build and maintain relationships with your partners, and you have to build and maintain and balance the pressures or balance the necessities with your own management, your own company.
Yep, that's right.
So how does that play into this? Because I find this to be as you're describing it, each company being different, is that when you're taking over one of these jobs, where do you start? Do you start by building the relationships, or you start by selling?
Yeah, both. And here's what happens. I look for ways that I can create immediate impact and value. And Larry, one of these things that I'll tell you as I'm maturing in life, a very smart person said to me once that, people choose the company or the person. And I remember that kind of stuck with me. I don't know if you remember, who that smart person was that said that. But
I forget more than I remember.
But you actually said that to me years ago and reminded me of that. And I am always, every move I make, I'm always just so honored and just so amazed about the partners that reach out to me, my industry people that reach out to me, just in terms of just understanding where I am and why I've made that move. And it's interesting enough, I've earned enough credibility in this space and in this market that they will give it a try, they'll give it a listen. And so, part of when I come in and think about the things I want to do, the first thing I'm not doing is changing programs and discounts and all those kinds of things. I think that's the worst move that channel chiefs could make. Partners have enough that they're trying to understand. That's probably the last place you want to start. but I'm looking at ways that I can optimize for partners. And the way that I do that is I listen. You know, my dad used to say, if you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room. So I stay very curious. I've been interviewing my internal teams. I've been interviewing my partners about what's working and what's not. And the reality is somewhere in between that. But the immediate impact that I can bring is the relationships that I have, the knowledge that I have on what best in class looks like. So I show them that picture. Here's what best in class looks like. This is our 3-year plan, begin with the end in mind. And here are the phases that we're going to take to support the growth of the company.
Now, I like what you said there about, here's the 3-year plan or 3-year vision.
Mm-hmm.
The average channel chief doesn't last that long.
That's right.
So what's the significance of projecting that far out?
Yeah, because, here's the thing, even though the average channel chief doesn't exist that long, you've got to be able to create that blueprint and that story, because that's going to fuel the investments, that's going to fuel the focus. And internally, they've got to be aligned to, here's how you're contributing to growth. Here's how you're creating to channel lift. I'm big on channel lift. I want to be in places that my sales teams are not. How can I start to guide my partners in those ways? And so even though I may not be there to kind of see that through, that was a true testament, with Infoblox, we kind of had that 3-year plan and we kind of got through that vision. But now they're kind of on a journey to a next path, and they're going to see that through. And the next person that comes in has a lot that they can leverage from that. And by the way, we're a small community. And so we share ideas and knowledge. And I had a lot of channel chiefs reach out about previous roles or things that they were stepping into that I might know about, right? And so it's about kind of forging not only what's best for, the company and for how you're selling the story, but also for the channel chief that comes in next, right?
Yeah. Something you said about respecting what's there.
Mm-hmm.
And again, I appreciate that notion, but I often see two things that happen is that there is either a need for change or there is a perception that you have to change.
Right.
That you have to make your mark. And in fact, I've had many channel chiefs say to me that I have to put my stamp on this.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you balance this? I mean, where's the, what's the determination from your perspective of where do you make those decisions about what to change, if to change? This is not a job where you get hired and come in, you sit down, and you just start doing work that's already been in progress. It's not assembly line work.
Right.
So how do you initiate that in your own mind and then translate it out to the rest of your organization?
Yeah. So I focus on the short-term wins. So the assessment that I've started to take is, do we have right partners in the right places and doing right things? We're going to get to tools and process and methodologies. Yes, you can always fine tune the deal registration process. You can always make that better and send that out. Who wants to see that the first, month that you kind of come in, that I'm tightening up policy, but I look at ways to do things where it's going to be impactful to our revenue and to our partners, anything that's going to kind of benefit that. So what we've been sort of doing is looking at where do we have gaps in coverage or capability with partners. And now I'm leveraging my relationships with partners in those ways, right? So now we're starting to create some real impact with getting those things in place. Yes, I will get to the tools that we need to better. I'll get to enablement, and we're starting to create some new videos and kind of update those things. Yes, we want to add specializations to the program, without a doubt. Yes, there's more work we can do on telling our stories and bigger, bolder stories. But again, I focus on taking inventory of everything and really, really making a decision about, does this help me penetrate the market differently? Does this help me come across to, how am I stopping my competition? and who are the partners and people that I need to kind of get engaged to either tell bigger stories, to tell different stories, and start to create that momentum. So I focus on short-term wins that are revenue impacting first.
Yeah. Does the short, okay, here's a loaded question for you.
Okay.
Yeah, because look, everybody wants to have that win. Everybody wants to show that they're having an impact, right? But can the short-term wins, is there a danger that the short-term wins can then not, remove the justification for the long-term imperatives that you have to get done? Meaning that somebody along the way can look and say, oh, look, they're doing fine, just they're doing right now. We don't have to do the big things.
No, yeah. And so this is where I am maniacally focused on doing a few things really well. And I always pick three because, it was easy for me to tell my kids three things, right? So here are the three things that we're going to focus on for the next quarter. And now, sure, marketplaces are interesting without a doubt. But if I start doing that, I have to stop doing one of these three things. So help me prioritize, those three things, right? So get buy-in from your leaders about those three things, agreement that those things are going to create impact. And yes, there's a lot of interesting things that I have on the list, but if I'm a big believer in keeping it focused. And so if we start to look at new things, like a plate spinner, there's only so many plates that you can spin with so many people. So, but again, it goes back to having that 3-year vision, because in that 3-year vision, you showed them what best in class looks like, how you scale that, what the needs are to kind of get to each of those things in terms of capacity of partners, in terms of cams on the street, in terms of, all of the things that are required to evolve. So if I start doing this ahead of that schedule, what am I going to stop doing? Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Laura, who's the first person you want to talk with on your first day?
So on my first day, I talked to, well, before I took the job, I probably talked to a lot of people, but on my first day, I had a call with there's one person in channel here who has been propping all this stuff up. And that's who I talked to about, what's sort of happening, and just getting a lay of the land, because the frontline people, the people that kind of live and breathe this every day, have a different perspective than my CEO or my SVP of sales or my head of marketing, right? I want to talk to the people that live and breathe this, that wake up and engage with partners to get a true sense of what they're seeing. And then it also helps me then validate some of the other things that I'm hearing or not hearing.
Yeah. The first person I always seek out?
Who?
Executive assistants.
That's probably good. Yeah, that's a good one.
No, seriously. True story. I was at a meeting meeting with the channel chief. Let's just say the meeting did not go well.
Mm-hmm.
And so as I'm, being, escorted out of the building, his assistant's walking me out, and I said, "Oh, by the way, can I have your card?" And she's like, "Oh, you need his card?" I said, "No, I need your card." And she was just dumbfounded. I said, "Look, I know you run the company."
Yeah.
So
Right
it's
on.
like,
Yeah, those,
yeah,
I mean, without a doubt, they have the eyes and ears of everything, right? I
yeah,
mean, and it's so funny because when I start anywhere, my three favorite people within the company outside of my own team and my leadership team are always the IT person who, let me buy you cookies because I'm going to need help. And it's
yeah.
always somebody in finance, because I know they're going to be paying my check. So I just want to make sure they have my right address.
I often hear the channel chiefs start this process by, they say they're going to go on a listening tour.
Mm-hmm.
They have to go out and talk to the partners. And I think, which is kind of interesting, since we don't have that ability to actually go and touch partners today. We're getting it back slowly, but they want to go out and hear. What do you listen for? What is that first contact with partners like?
I'm always just excited to tell partners why, and they're always interested about why I made the move. What are you most excited about? And I tell you, we had a few calls last week with major, resellers in the market that I have relationships with. And it was interesting because as they were asking, I was ready to sell to them and they were ready to kind of sell to me, but they were more interested in why I made the move, and listening to why I made that move. And they're looking for innovation. They're looking for, but they knew that CyCognito was very serious about channel because they hired somebody with my skill set. And as they said, the reputation in the market. What I listen for, partners will always sort of give you what's working and what's not, and give you some sense of what you can do better. But you always have to kind of be careful of where you get your advice also, right? I mean, that's also really, really important, right? I had a lady the other day, I was at the gas station and she's a random lady was like giving me some advice on Bitcoin. And I thought, well, oh, okay, I don't know you, but you're giving me Bitcoin advice. And it was just sort of random. So that is only just, that's, to say you also have to be careful of where you're seeking that, right? You have trusted advisors and partners that you look out for that are going to give you great advice because you've built that trust and reputation with them, that you're going to seek that and they're going to seek that from you. And now we have an understanding of why we're both here and we can kind of move forward, right? So anyway, that's sort of what I listen for.
So what was the advice on the Bitcoin?
Oh, she gave me, you need to buy because it's going to be going up. Gas prices are going up and you need to buy Bitcoin immediately because it's going to go up to, whatever she was telling me. And it was so funny. It was just sort of a random thing.
Yeah. That's, I always take financial and investment advice from people I meet at gas stations.
That's what I said. Yeah, exactly.
It's perfect. Yeah. Perfect place for that. Right.
Exactly.
So look, you're in this, an organization that is really just starting its channel journey.
Yes.
I mean, it's a nice company, but it's still, you're at a beginning phase.
Super beginning stage.
So now you, not only do you have to build a vision, but you also have to build a team. Where does the talent for that team come from?
So listen, if you are a good leader, and again, I'm always humbled in this, people find you. And since I've made this move, I've had so many people just reach out that are interested, that they want to make sure that as I'm building the team to sort of keep them in mind, top talent and people will follow you if you're a good leader and you've demonstrated that you're somebody that people want to work for and follow. So I feel like sort of talent kind of follows the leader.
Yeah. So let's think about this, is that you want to have a short-term impact. You want to have a long-term vision. And I think look, this is something that we all should be thinking about no matter what we're doing, right?
Yes.
How do you measure success though? How do you then keep that confidence building forward to show that not only are you moving in the right direction, but the things that you've done retroactively are actually having the impact you want them to have? Hey, Lori, and folks, you're listening, and Lori and I have known each other obviously for a long time. We've had this conversation many times. Big mistake I always see channel chiefs make is that they wait until the end to define what the KPIs, what the key performance indicators are, and they get in trouble that way. So how do you define those measures and keep them consistent so that your value, the value that you're contributing does shine through?
Yeah, that's exactly it, Larry. Define that early, right? That's one of the boxes you open right away when you move, right?
Yeah, don't throw that box away.
Don't throw that box away. Define that early and agree on that. And that's what we've done here. Like in the first 3 weeks, we're very clear about, okay, they already have the 3-year vision. They already know what the metrics are that we're defining, right? We're still kind of a work in progress on some of that, but they're very clear that we are looking for partner recruitment in areas where we don't have coverage or capability. We're clear on now our profile of our ideal partner. and we are defining focus partners. So now we've got metrics to say, how are we going to track with our focus partners? How are they building pipeline? How are they closing opportunities? And then how are we doing with recruitment? It's simple, right? Define that early, get alignment to it. And now you have to create your own internal campaign, which means that every week you're talking about something that draws back now to those metrics to keep people interested, keep them excited about the things that we're doing, and make sure that they understand the things that we're doing and how that creates impact.
Yeah. So somebody, this is a true story. Somebody asked me this week. So if we make these changes to our channel program, how much more money are we going to make?
Huge. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And I said some.
Yeah.
More.
Right.
Maybe. It's a really. It's hard to explain sometimes to quantify this, because it's what you're talking about. Define what your indicators are going to be to show whether or not it's working. But it's more difficult to actually define what that target actually is going to be, because so much of it is contingent upon having the resources and having the ability to apply, to put pressure into the channel pipe in order to effectuate those outcomes. Is that is it a fair way of describing? Is that we hope it will turn out that way? We can't actually say it's going to be that way.
Listen, hope is never a strategy, right? But I think, and a program is not going to move the needle to that degree. What moves the needle is showing up with the right partners, with the right conversation, with the right solution, with the right story. The biggest thing I can tell you that I always do is, in preparing my executives to have conversations with partners, we do our homework. Right? What is interesting to this partner? How is our solution actually fitting into the things that are interesting for them? Don't just come with your pitch, your story, but do your homework and show up. And this is where you have to, in the beginning, sort of really rely on your expertise in your relationships in the business to kind of bring some of those new things along. But I think you're right. Listen, I always sort of balance to say, it's kind of like, here's where we are on the map, right? And in order for us to get from step 2 to 3, right, I'm very clear, this is what that means, right? If we're going to grow at this rate, it means that we're going to have to add 3 account channel managers. In order for us to scale to this level, we've got to have, more enablement, more scalable enablement, right? And so always make sure that you're making the connection from this point to the next point. Here are the things that it will become, but in order to do that, here are the things that I need to kind of do that.
Yeah. Now, so Lori, they only gave me so many index cards to work with, so I only have one question left I can ask. Otherwise, I could keep talking with you all day.
I know.
So look, realistically, you've been on the job now for a couple of weeks, and you're going to retire from here, right? Because that's what we all say until we get to that 1836 month mark, right?
Yes.
How long does all of this take? How long does it take to go from day 1 to day I'm feeling good about where this is going?
Yeah, and it's a little bit of kind of where, like you're not fitting exactly right in your clothes for a while, right? I'm on week 4, but I feel good already about the impact that I've been able to bring to this company and the exchange of energy that we've had. Remember, and I always try to remember, some of the small things that I bring have big impact to a company like this. And so, listen, they're investing early in the channel, they're bold in their moves, but they're so thankful. Every time we get off of a call, I get a text from my CEO, my SVP of sales, and just thank you for being here. And so I love sort of stepping back into those moments where you're appreciated and you're valued for the things and how you're bringing them. So I would just say, don't put too much pressure on ourselves, to feel like we've got to come out, with our everything day one. It is a progression. without a doubt, but it is already a good exchange of value and energy and appreciation for just the things that we've been able to do for each other. I'm learning a ton about cybersecurity. I'm learning a ton about this part of the market, which is what I wanted to do. And I'm with some of the smartest people around this space to be able to do that. And in exchange, I'm going to bring the best of who I know and what I know, as well as my industry experts to help me along the way. So I'm making connections on how we can tell bolder stories. I'm making connections on helping us with our go-to-market strategies, right? I'm making connections with events and different things I think we need to start to plug ourselves into. And they're just so appreciative.
That's fantastic. Well, Lori, again, Lori Cornmesser, the vice president, newly minted vice president of worldwide channel sales at the cybersecurity company CyCognito. Lori, thanks for being on Changing Channels. Always great having you.
My pleasure, Larry. Thank you so much.
And everyone out there, we really appreciate you tuning in every time we release one of these episodes. If you like what we're doing, please hit the like button below on YouTube, subscribe to us on Spotify, Apple, Google Play, wherever you get your podcasts. We really appreciate the listeners and always appreciate you coming back. And please feel free, tell your friends if you want to hear more, if there's a topic you wanted us to talk about, if there's a question you have, shoot me an email, lmwalsh@channelnomics.com, and I will get to it. Promise, I will explore anything you want us to. Until next time, thanks for joining. Again, Larry Walsh for Changing Channels.
Thank you for joining Changing Channels with Larry Walsh, a production of Channelnomics, with the support of our production team at Modern Podcasting. If you've enjoyed today's episode, hit the like button, subscribe wherever you get your podcasts, and share with your friends. For more information about Channelnomics services and insights, follow us on Twitter and YouTube, and check out our website at channelnomics.com. Channelnomics is a registered trademark of, and Changing Channels is copyright by 2112 Enterprises, LLC.